So I'm sure Putin isn't happy today. Ukrainian drone hit their target. Russian port in Taman is on fire. They pier, oil terminals, and storage tank were badly damaged. What do you think about operation like this?
I think what's happening is clearly the Russian forces are not able to protect their own homeland. They're showing increased weakness, but more importantly, Russia is going through so much more infrastructure than anybody had anticipated. We already know that over 20,000 pieces of mechanized armor, whether that's tanks or personnel carriers, have been destroyed. A third of their airbound nuclear triad is gone, even more planes every day. And now we have Russia really not having the ability to operate its fleet safely. We know that the Black Sea Fleet is not able to operate in the Black Sea anymore. It has to either hide in the Azov Sea or be shipped all the way around Europe into the northern seas. And frankly speaking, the northern seas are probably the last place that they can hide right now, because the further Ukraine goes with its long range detonations, whether that's what we saw during Operation Spiderweb or long range drones, at some point the northern shore of Russia will be a target as well.
Mhm. It feels like many people are starting to forget that Ukraine is systematically hitting Putin's oil infrastructure. Why do you think this part of the war gets so little attention?
Well, it's certainly being discussed in financial markets here in the West. We know that Russia has reported way less revenues, dramatically lower revenues from crude oil, and natural gas. We know that Russia has tried to increase its natural gas sales to China. In fact, that's making it the number two supplier of natural gas to China, because it simply isn't supplying to Europe anymore. So it's diverting the majority of its gas sales to China and parts east. However, again, going back to your question about oil sales, it is really being talked about here in the West in terms of European financial news reporting as well as American news reporting, that Russia cannot keep trying to gain money from Europe at this point with the increased sanctions, with the targeting of different shadow fleet tankers, whether that's by Turkey, whether that's by Sweden and Norway. Many more countries are now detaining these tankers that are operating outside of international sanctions. And the further this goes on, the less able Russia is going to be able to do. If they want to completely sell all of its oil and gas to China, that is their decision. But at this
Yeah.
point, they are diminishing their sales to Europe day by day.
And they want to sell a lot of gold to China, but we talk about this later. And one more: do you think this strike seriously affect the negotiation process?
In terms of what's happening to the Russian oil supply, absolutely. In terms of what's happening to Russia's military infrastructure, especially that $400 million submarine that was destroyed by a $40,000 drone, at some point, there will come a time where Russia will not be able to convincingly threaten other countries, because Ukraine will have destroyed so many of its military infrastructure. But in the meantime, unfortunately, I say in the immediate future, Russia, as we have heard just in the last few days, Russia continues to have maximalist aims. U.S. intelligence confirms that they still want to occupy all of Ukraine. They do not want to cede it to the West, and so they will continue doing whatever possible to occupy Ukraine for the immediate future. How long that lasts, that's a question of money. That's a question of how much supplies last after this year.
Hmm. And here we go. Gold. Does Putin still have enough money to keep the war going? Because, for example, China bought Russia gold for a record 61 million dollars in November. It's 4 times more than last time.
Yeah, other than their currency reserves, in terms of hard gold, they actually have no currency reserves because they've sold it off. This is why they're selling off their gold to gain some liquidity back. They're not able really to function on the world market given the amount of restrictions on Russian industries, Russian financial institution, they are lacking liquidity. How do we see this? We see this in the fact that they are not able to offer as many financial bonuses to sign up recruits into their army. We're seeing this in the type of equipment they are now using on the front lines and purchasing for future weaponry. This is not the most modern piece of equipment. They are looking at cheaper pieces of equipment because they frankly cannot afford anything else. Whatever monies they're going to get from China are almost immediately going to get turned into spending that money on Chinese microchips, Chinese supplies for their weaponry, pay for North Korean soldiers and workers to produce Shahed drones on Russian territory. This is a vicious cycle. This is almost what people describe as a financial bubble in the West with AI, with all the different companies feeding themselves. Much like this, it's this cringe coalition of China and Russia. They are basically spending money amongst each other. China is getting money from other sources, but Russia really isn't getting outside investment. This is the whole point of the peace deal. They need outside investment desperately. Unfortunately for Russia, they are stuck with these criminal enterprises of China, North Korea, Iran, and others.
And one more interesting situation: Putin recently told journalists that Russia economy is stronger than the EU's. On paper, GDP has grown, but we all know why. Because of war spending. Isn't that like taking a huge loan and then claiming you suddenly got rich?
Yeah, the problem with turning your entire economy towards war is that the other countries around you, other than the country you're invading, the other countries around you have a diverse economy, and that's something that Russia doesn't have. What does that make a problem of? Well, it keeps Russia stuck in a war footing, because if they were to ever stop, now they don't have any other industry which they can use for goods and economy. And secondly, even if they were to stop today, that economy does not change into a post-war economy within a year even. To change factories to produce other goods, to make sure those goods are available in other countries, that means removal of sanctions. Russia is going to be in a very difficult economic place going forward, given the fact that they've been sanctioned so much, they've been blacklisted from countries around the world, and in the end, they haven't put in the necessary infrastructure. They've been wasting money on military infrastructure, which is for their benefit in winning a war, but it is not to the benefit of the population, because now they will have no money to invest in any reconstruction. That's what Ukraine is doing. Ukraine is securing reconstruction money and loans from Europe. Russia is not doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and next news, very bad. We're also missing a key question in this all this situation. What will Russia look like after this war? I was shocked by a recent story. A Russian soldier killed his wife because of PTSD. Putin mentioned problems with veterans and told people to just be patient, just wait some time. That sounds insane.
It is. We know that the amount of spending in the economy isn't being directed at schools, at education, at civilian programs. You mentioned PTSD for soldiers. There's lots. Frankly, Russia would prefer if the soldiers get killed. That way, they have less need for money to spend on rehabilitation after the war. But it goes beyond just the people of Russia. The most of Northern Europe is now sounding the alarm that Russia has recruited so many people from northern Siberia that they have no more male population that traditionally has gone on and hunted wolves, to the extent that the native population of predators has now spread across Northern Europe into Scandinavia at a pace that they haven't seen before. We're literally affecting the environment by this war, not just by the attacking of nuclear sites in Ukraine, poisoning land with landmines and chemicals for decades, but we're even affecting the fact that now that there's less population because people have been conscripted to serve, there's less land development and animal husbandry, animal tending in the northern regions of Siberia, to the extent it's changing the local population of animals. This is not something that can be easily fixed. At some point, there will be a tipping point in different environmental and socioeconomic concerns in Russia. Again, we would all like for this to happen sooner rather than later, because we are waiting for this maximum pressure to occur on Russia. Unfortunately, Russia has built up so many, its oligarchs, its leaders have built up so many private reserves that they're not really worried about the rest of the country. So long as they can fund their own private army to protect them, they have their private mansions, they're fine. But this is not going to bode well for Russia in the long term.
Okay, and U.S. news. What's the latest on Trump and the Epstein case? People talk about new details and new photos, but do they really change anything?
What has changed is President Trump really did not want for Congress to act to release the files. And he advocated personally. He told people he would primary them. Do not vote for this. And what ended up happening is that every single Congress person, except for one, voted to release the files. And then it passed unanimously in the Senate. This is specifically a political loss. We have President Trump is damaged now. He has been invincible for months, and this is the first time, and not just by a couple of votes, but the entirety of Congress voted against his personal wishes. So this vertical control that he has had over Congress, which we want to break because we want to be able to have Senator Graham and Senator Blumenthal put their sanctions bill up. That's currently still being blocked. But the more of these losses that he has politically, and the more that we change over into 2026, when members of Senate and Congress will be on the ballot, and so they will be campaigning, this is when we're going to see people try to figure out, can I win my seat in Congress by still supporting Trump, who is so unpopular? And so the Epstein files are an example of this. One, people don't like what's in the Epstein files that they've already seen. People know that President Trump is associated with them, even though President Trump is just releasing pictures of other people, not himself. But in general, this is a loss politically for President Trump. And now every congressman and senator needs to figure out, do I campaign by saying I'm a close friend of President Trump, or do I campaign as a Republican and say, re-elect me, and I will make sure that President Trump does everything that he promised? So there's a big political question in 2026.
Finally, what about the elections Trump is preparing for? What obstacle does he face? It's not just the Epstein case hurting his image. Economic problem he promises to fix are still there too.
Yeah, I believe that President Trump is more unpopular as far as economically than popular by 20 percentage points. This has rarely happened in history. However, we do see this in a president's. We saw this level of unpopularity when Biden pulled out of Afghanistan, and all of the news media and pundits started complaining about how awful it was. We are in a similar place right now between the economy as well as what's happening in Venezuela. Off the coast, and the bombings that are happening there. Add on top of that the deportations. But in the end, it's always going to be the economy. It's always going to be the fact that younger people have a less chance of finding a job nowadays than they have had for the last 10, 15 years. And that's going to cause those young people who voted for Trump in 2024, now they're going to be possibly voting for an opposition candidate in Congress in 2026. And that is the one thing that President Trump does not want. He does not want to have an opposition party in Congress, because they will start investigating Epstein files, investigating his destruction of the White House, investigating why he needs to put his name on every federal building, it seems, and where did this money come from? How has he been doing all this? None of these investigations, which are ordered by Congress regularly, have been happening. And that's the one thing President Trump doesn't want to see.